Alright, we'll get started. This is part 2. So first we're going to take our box. A lot of the boxes have these little inserts inside that stand up. If you got those, just go on the back side and drill your four holes. If you don't have one on the inside, what you can do is you want to be about half of an inch to 3/4 of an inch. And you could take a compass, you could take a pencil, and just take and draw your lines across the top, all the way around. And then where your corners meet, from here to here to here to here, is drill your hole right there on the center. And these are going to be for the little rubber grommets. Okay. And these are a number 6 by 32 thread with a 1/4 inch bumper. And all I do is I take and let me grab a screwdriver here. So what I usually do is go ahead and mount these first. I may have to go to a one size bigger drill bit for drilling those holes. Let me see if this is the right size. I think I'm going to go one more size bigger for drilling those. And this one is an 1/8 inch. And if you drill them too big, just put nuts on the inside of them. Yeah, that's the right size. So you want an 1/8 inch hole that you want to drill. So go ahead and put the feet on the bottom of your box. And go ahead and make sure that you screw your screws all the way in so they're not hanging out of the bottom of them, because that'll scratch your table and your bench. And when you're finished, that's what it'll look like on the back side. So when you put it on the bench or a table or something, you don't have to worry about it scratching anything. Okay, the next thing I do is, because I'm real picky and I don't want scratches all over my box, is I take this green tape, which works real well and it sticks really good, is I take and put this on the outside of the box. So while I'm going through and doing all the drilling and building the box, I don't have to worry about scratching the heck out of the... If you're going to spend 6 hours building it, you don't want it to be all scratched up. I'm going to go ahead and put one more strip on it around. Okay, nothing fancy, just like I said, taping it off on the outside. When it hits the bench, you're drilling around, what have you. You're not having to worry about scratching it all up. Okay, the very next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the buzz bar block in. So this one's got a positive, this one's got a negative. You're going to basically set it inside your box. And you're going to drill 2 holes for that. And and like I said, you're going to need to make sure you got screws, an assortment of screws. Make sure this is the, I think that'll work. And a lot of times you have to make this a little bit bigger. And when you drill the holes and mount it in your box, keep it about 1/4 of an inch away from the side. That'll allow you to be able to get your wire connectors in once we start putting those in. And I just put a board underneath, nothing fancy. Like I said, 1/4 inch from the side. And we'll go ahead and mount this. And wouldn't you know, I got to go one size bigger on that one as well. So we're going to go to 9/64. And let's see, them are fine. Make these holes just a tad bigger. And what I usually do is put the screws in and the nuts inside the box. Okay, and I'm going to tighten those up. And I'm going to want my Phillips screwdriver on there. Hold this from the inside while I tighten it up. Tighten the other one. Okay, and that's what it looks like having that mounted in there. Okay, the next thing we're going to put in is our buzzard. And that'll be what I showed you. It'll be the white one here. And it's got 2 little screw holes on the sides. And like I said, I have an assortment of screws what I use. So I've got all different sizes. And again, we're going to drill those. We're going to drill this in up in the corner. And we're still going to use that 9/64. And once again, you're going to stick your screws up through the bottom. Put a nut on it. And once again, tighten those up. And then once that's mounted in there, you get the buzzard here, you get your block in here. Okay, the next thing we're ready to do is to mount the electronics circuit board in here. And you'll have to take and drill out the, when you get the card, you'll have to make the holes just slightly a little bit bigger. We need to drill those into the box, and it needs to be one more, let's see, so make that a 9/64 hole. We'll try that and see if they're big enough. And you're going to want to put it in where the three screws here on this end is towards the buzzard. So you're going to go and drill the holes. Okay, if you do a lot of circuit boards and stuff, we'll need the standoffs. And what I do is I'll go ahead and put my screws through here. On each one of the corners. Just like that. And what I want to do is I want to take up some of that space because I want this elevated inside the box so it's not laying flat. And what I do is I just use a little tubing, and I try to cut them all the same size. Sometimes I get lucky getting them right, and other times you got to come back and make them again. So let's check this one out. And that one probably needs to be a tad shorter. So let me get 4 of those cut real quick. See if I can just put it next to it, and probably be easier to cut it. Go ahead and continue putting those on all 4. And it'll look just like that. Let's get your little rubber standoffs. Push them through the holes, and hopefully everything lines up and comes together for you. And hopefully they're long enough to get a nut on them. So I'll go ahead and get these started. Okay, and what you want to do is tighten them up as well. And instead of and like I said, you want to tighten those up. You don't want to crimp it down too tight. Okay, and there you have your little one-channel control panel. And then down here at the bottom is you got to go to a thicker screw, and it's going to be used for your ground. And let's see, needs to be a little bit longer than that, so we will go with and what you want to do is drill that towards the bottom, and for that drill bit we are going to make it probably 3/16 is what we want. So I'm just going to go on the top here. Here's the buzz bar, go right here. And you sort of want to try to get it in the middle when you drill the hole. And basically, that looks a little bit longer than what I want. Let's see if I got this. And then take and put your ground screw in there. Go ahead and put your nut on it. And tighten it up. And just so we don't lose it, go ahead and put a second nut on that, because that's what your ground's going to go on. Next thing we're going to do here is we're going to set this aside for a minute, and we're going to take this and tape off the face of it. And remember, I showed you different ones. I'm making it where it goes on sideways. And when you're laying out this pattern, if you try to keep your tape lines straight across instead of overlapping, it can help you lay this out as well. And the other good thing is when you're working on the project, you don't have all those scratches all over your face of this on your cover. And then go ahead and bend it over. And then we'll come back and trim it up, take off the excess so you're not fighting it during the project. As you can see right there, all taped off. So now comes the planing. So if you want yours to be upright, since I built a bunch of them, I've made a couple patterns. I've done it this way here. Your counter will fit in here, your light will be here, your button for your primer feed here, the counter button on and off will be here in the corner. Down here in the center bottom is your fuse, and then your on and off switch is right here. And what I'm doing is I'm making mine sideways. So I'm going to line this up, and you got to allow a little bit of space at the top so when you put it together you'll be able to fit that in there, and you almost have to come back, and I'll measure this. You need to leave, when you start cutting that for your counter, you got to at least leave it a good 1/4 of an inch. So just lay that out. And then take a pencil, or you can use a black marker. And if you take your counter and turn it upside down, just trace around it on your project. Remember, I don't have any counters here, but I got 2 coming. They'll be here before the end of the week, of next week. So now I've got my counter laid out, and let's see if I'm centered. About 1.5 inches. So I need to come over a little bit more. That's 1 3/4. That's 1.5. So we need to go over 1/4. So just draw that out on your control panel. And then roughly your 2 7/8 in width. In your height, you're about 1.5 inches. So this is all totally coming out. So I usually take and put an X on it. Okay, the next thing we're going to put on here is our on and off switch. And first of all, you want to measure up. What I measure up is about 1 inch. And let me verify this with my notes. So you want to put a mark at 1 inch on both sides. Okay, now once you get that inch on both sides, draw a straight line all the way across. And I'm just going to double check. 3 5/8, 1 inch. 1 inch. Alright, now you need to start laying this out. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to put your on and off toggle switch. Okay? And what I usually do is I usually go over about 3/4 of an inch and I'll put a mark here. And on the other side, I'll come in and I believe it's 1/2 of an inch. And that one is my fuse holder. Okay? So now the next thing is it needs to go in the center. So this center here is 6 1/16. So I need to go on here and make a center line of that. And the center line is going to be your light. Okay, so now we still have to make 2 more lines for the other 2 switches. And I think it's been 1.25 inches from over here on the on and off. I go center from here, centered 1.25 inches over. 1.25 inches. And then I'm going to go 1.25 inches from the light in the center. I'll show you what this looks like in just a second. Okay, so we have the on and off switch here. We have this button on and off switch. We have your light. We have your button for your primer feed. And we have our fuse. And they're going to go in that order. Okay, so let's set these up here. Make sure I'm still recording here. Alright. One thing that's going to be handy where I told you on drill bits, because you're going to need multi sizes. And I use this to make my hole to the dimension that I need. But I got to start it out with something so I can start the hole. And let's see. We need to go up to this one's a 7/32. And we're going to start these holes. Alright, now what you have is you've got your holes for all your switch. Now we need to make them the right size to fit all these components. So the very first one we're going to put on is the on and off switch. Okay, we know that ain't going to be big enough. So instead of going back and forth on all those, if you use one of these, and I got to get my other drill. For a regular drill with a chuck. And this one's got the different sizes that you go up to. The biggest one we'll use is all the way up to 7/8. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to go and make this hole big enough so you can put your switches through the holes. Okay, I've done a few of them, so I got lucky on that one. First try out. And I need to be able to get that on the front. And I usually go and put these on temporary and make sure that everything's going to, good together as far as being able to mount it. And I just finger tighten them. Okay, so there's your first one. Second one's a little bit bigger, as you can see. And sometimes you will go too big if you get in a hurry. So I try to go down to each collar. When it goes down to that step. And we are almost there. I think it's going to take one more. Okay, we're good there. So there's the second switch. And hopefully I'm still recording. Okay, the next one's your light. So you need to decide what light you want. I mean, are you going with the one that's got a capture where it goes together like that? Or are you going to go with a light like this? Okay, so I'm going with this one here. So we want to go ahead and take the nut off the back of the light. Take your washer off. And the light thing, you got to be careful. Because if you make it too big, then you start, it don't look very good, because then you got to start putting washers and that to be able to put it on the panel and use it. So this one takes a little bit more of making sure getting it right. And I'm almost there, so I need to go one more step down. And push that through, and then on the back side you're going to put this washer and this nut on here. when you get the light where it needs to go, look just like that. Pigtail on the back. Okay, now another button, and this one's for the primer feed. Same thing applies here. I need to go just a tad more. Okay. And again, you'll take and put your lock washer on there. And the reason why I'm not tightening them permanently because I got to come back and take all this tape off underneath it. And hopefully you guys have been able to carry that over the furnace here. Let me kick it off. Sorry about that. Okay. Alright, so now you got the next button done. Alright, now we're going to do the fuse. So take those. You'll have one white washer that goes on the outside of the panel, and then a white washer and a nut on the back. And this one's a much smaller hole that you're going to be making. And you got to go a little bit. So see how much easier that makes it instead of keep going back and forth and trying a whole bunch of different drill bits to get the right size. Okay, so we did the box today. We got the positive negative buzz bar in there. We got the buzzer put in. We got the one channel circuit board. We've got the face of it outlined. We've got the on and off button on. We got the switch for the unit for the counter. We got the light in the center. We got the button for the primer feed. And we got the fuse. And all that's mounted. Alright, so in the next video we're going to come back, and you guys, if you want to go ahead, basically just take your wires, put your pigtails. You're going to have two colors coming off, a black and a red, off your fuse. You're going to have same color for your primer feed, so put two colors on it. You're going to need two wires on the back of your button on and off for your counter. And those are spade connectors, and then you can use you're going to need a black and a white, or black and a red coming off the on and off switch here. Mine's going to be where you use those O-rings on some of those on the on and off. It's going to be smaller than this, but it's going to be one of those fittings there. And you know, hopefully next few days I'll have that counter in where I could cut that out and put that in there as well, and then we can move on with the project. So I think that's long enough for one day. As always, if you like my channel, please subscribe, support the sport, and good shooting. Thank you.